Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to BioTouch Healing Health Condition Workshop for March. We're going to talk about food cravings today. My name's Paul Bucky.
Good evening, this is Bev. And we have a very special guest and presenter this evening, Alisa Bloom, who is a DNA dietitian. I want to know more about that, and a wellness coach. So welcome to you, Alisa. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you very much.
Our pleasure. And it's Alisa.
Lisa with
Alisa,
an A.
yes.
All right. Well, we're just going to let Alisa take off. If you have any questions here, you can post them in whatever format you're watching. We'll pass them on to her. And then at the end of that program, we're going to share how the BioTouch sets of points to use for food cravings, which I guess we're also going to talk about inflammation. And so we'll just let you take it away, Elise.
All right. Well, hello, everybody. Who am I? I'm Alisa Bloom. I'm a dietitian and health and wellness coach. And what makes me unique about DNA is that everyone who sees me takes a cheek swab DNA test, and we really look through for the root causes of inflammation, which cause so many things that things go awry, and one of the big ones is food cravings. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about the different types of inflammation and the havoc that they wreak, and most importantly, what you can do so that you can do something about it. So who is listening feels that, is it your cravings controlling you or you driving the cravings? Which way would you say that it goes? Let's see, I have some notes here too. So let's talk about the types of inflammation. I want you to think for a minute of what you think about when you think of inflammation. You've heard it everywhere now, but could you describe it? When we talk about two types of inflammation, the first one is acute. What does that mean? It means that if I cut myself, I actually want an inflammatory response. I want my body to send healing things to my cut to help it heal. That is an acute situation where we cut, you have a wound, you want the body to have that inflammatory response, and then it goes away because it heals what it needs to do. But when we're talking about chronic inflammation, that's where I like to think of it like a low level of white noise all over the body. And the louder that noise gets, it talks about chronic inflammation, that's that white noise everywhere. And the longer that white noise sits there, the louder it gets, is usually when we run into some chronic conditions and some problems. So food cravings, where does this start? If you can think about what chronic inflammation does to the body, we have vessels. Vessels are everywhere, in your heart, in your lungs, in your kidneys, in your eyes, in your brain. And as this level of white noise rises to your entire body, some of the symptoms that you may have heard about would be joint pain, difficulty sleeping, mood changes, usually a depressed type of mood, brain fog, and food cravings. I don't know how many of you have associated food cravings with inflammation, but I'm going to talk to you about that tonight. When we have inflammation in the body, one of the places that it goes to is gut. Has anyone heard of gut microbiome, which is essentially the ecosystem of bacteria in your gut? And we want that bacteria or things that we eat to be favorable, because if it's not, all the signals get messed up. When signals get messed up, and I'm talking about like dopamine and serotonin, and when you may have heard of the term leaky gut. So these are when things go through, if there's an intestinal walls in your gut, if we're thinking about it, think about it as just a big circle, or just a pathway trap. Then there's things that go outside of the membranes in there, and that gives more inflammation. The more inflammation that you have, the more that we disrupt that gut microbiome as well. I'm getting to the food cravings. So what ends up happening is when I just mentioned the disruption of serotonin and dopamine, serotonin is the feel-good chemical, which calms us down. Dopamine is that reward seeking. When we have too much inflammation in the gut, some of that reward seeking gets in overdrive. And that can lead, that's one way that inflammation in the body and in the gut can lead to food cravings. Another way is that the chronic inflammation will also cause leaky gut, and it triggers this effect of higher inflammation and kind of feeling like you're never satisfied. We're going to talk about some food ways that other ways that it manifests, but if you never feel satisfied, you're going to chronically crave, or you also won't ever feel full in a way that will keep you full. And we're not talking about, this discussion is not about emotional fullness. We're really talking about where inflammation is disrupting science in your body, and it makes you hungrier, and it has you wanting cravings, wanting certain types of foods to build the serotonin. So when we want to tame the dopamine monster or the dopamine rival, and wanting to have more serotonin. So as an example, as now I sit in the Chicago area where the winter or darker months bring more darkness, we have less sunlight, and we tend to carbohydrate crave. It's all to increase that serotonin. When the gut microbiome is off because of too much inflammation, now we're seeking serotonin, or in some cases, carb craving even more. So the gut microbiome will indeed influence more inflammation and can be affected by it. But here's one thing that a lot of times hasn't been talked about, but you're going to start to hear it more. Processed foods. Anyone hear about ultra processed foods? That's the term these days, UPFs. And what they do is they drive inflammation, and they constantly make more cravings for you. So what is an ultra processed food? Well, looks very different from if you go outside and get a food that would be in your garden or somewhere that it's, by the time it gets to you, it looks very different than how you would see it out in nature. But it's more than that. If you look at an ingredient label, and the longer the paragraph is, the more likely it has been ultra processed. But when we think about the words modified anything starch, anybody recognize that on a label? Modified anything starch. I don't care if it's modified wheat, corn, whatever it is. Modified means exactly that. It's been changed from its original form, and by nature, our bodies don't really recognize it. We can handle it. We can move it through the digestive tract, but it doesn't. It sits. It will digest earlier in the digestive tract, which can cause a problem. And then it causes you to be hungrier more. So your digestive tract starts, technically your digestive tract starts as soon as you start to eat. It starts in your mouth, and then it moves down. Ultra processed foods digest or release however they break down in the earlier part of your digestive tract. Whereas the more whole, unprocessed foods that we eat, they get digested further down the digestive tract. But those ultra processed foods, for example, when they get digested earlier in the tract, they mess with the satiety signals, and we tend to be hungrier. So if you think about one of your favorite processed foods that you have, and you seem to not be able to stop, there's a reason for that. There's a reason that food chains are making money with all of these types of products. But I'm going to give a little boost where it's needed. The processed foods in general, sometimes they can help us. But I want you to think, what types of processed foods would help you? I'm going to help you out. Beans. All right. Do you really want to go and cook beans every time you want to have a bean? So a canned bean, as long as it doesn't have a whole bunch of additives in it, if it's the beans and water, beans, maybe salt, that you can drain that liquid off, that would be considered a processed food that would be beneficial. We think about tuna, So there are some foods that are baby carrots, for example. So any cut food, excuse me, is essentially a processed food because you don't find baby carrots on trees or in the ground. So we have to take this the way that it's meant to be. We're looking at the ultra processed foods in particular, that when we have those in the diet, those will indeed make inflammation worse and make your cravings worse. When we think about salad dressings, there's one of the big ones. The salad dressings usually have some modified food starches in them or a lot of different additives and gums, carrageenan, those types of things will all be ultra processed and cause the problem that we're talking about with more food cravings. Excuse me. And what do we try to do? We want to have foods that will digest further down the digestive tract. So we want more whole, unprocessed foods. We want foods, if we think about grains, so let's think about bread with the paragraph ingredients that you might have in your freezer, not a sourdough that really doesn't have a lot of ingredients in them, even though it is processed. But you could also change those out for groats. Now I'll talk about how to do this too. When we have grains, so oats that are the most grain form, you think of steel cut oats, but those are considered groats that you could find them outside if you were looking. Buckwheat has them, buckwheat groats, millet groats. When we get to more of the grains and other foods that are there in their unprocessed form, those will digest further in the digestive tract, and they'll release and they will help stop cravings because they're released further down. What also is happening to help reduce the cravings, everyone listening, that will increase your body's own GLP-1. You've heard of GLP-1s. This is the hormone that Ozempic, semaglutide, all of those types of trade names and forms are looking to raise GLP-1. Some would say that it might be a result of all the inflammation that we're wreaking havoc on the body and the ultra processed foods. I'll get to lifestyle in a second. And that's going to interfere with our body's own GLP-1 production. When we look at food cravings for food, we want to have the unprocessed foods. We want to chew our food. Yes, I don't want you counting how many times you chew food, but we technically, if you chew your food 15 to 40 times, okay, you can do it once or twice just so you get the hang of it. But you have to eat food that requires you to chew it. Okay, there's a prerequisite. But the more that you chew your food, one of the studies was done with cabbage. So the more that you chew your food, the more that is actually getting digested down the digestive tract. Do not try this with ultra processed foods and say, hey, I chewed it 40 times. No, we're still talking about unprocessed foods, but chewing them extensively will help raise your body's GLP-1 because you're pushing it down more in the digestive tract to be able to digest down there. So there's how food makes inflammation worse and makes food cravings worse. There's other aspects when we talk about lifestyle. Sleep. Lack of sleep increases inflammation, increases hunger or food cravings. Why? Because when you don't sleep well, you decrease the amount of leptin. Leptin is a hormone that tells us we're full. The leptin is decreased, and studies here show that when your sleep is disrupted, people have eaten up to 500 calories more the next day. So the next time that you have cravings, let's talk tonight about what's your game plan. Did I sleep? Did I sleep well? Have I had at least a meal or two in the past 2 or 3 meals that I've had? How processed were they? Did they have any ultra processed foods in them? I also want you to consider stress. Stress increases the cortisol, which is a stress hormone. When we have cortisol, we're influenced by food cravings. Usually the cortisol level peaks in the morning. So who here is guilty of having coffee on an empty stomach, which will make the which will make the cortisol levels worse, and then you will end up face flat in an ultra processed donut. So this is where, if all of a sudden you're doing your morning routine and you're having your coffee before anything else, or on an empty stomach, or maybe you've taken supplements or medication and you're also taking this coffee with it, I'd be very clear, it's not that it will interfere with medications or supplements, but when we put those in our bodies start doing things that are metabolically active. And when we have that cortisol in the morning, and then we have more caffeine with morning coffee, you're increasing the body's cortisol and you're causing your own food cravings. How do you combat that? You can, I know, this is a tough one for a lot of people, but you've probably heard around where you wake up, have a glass of water. That will work too. Just think about delaying your coffee in the morning. Whatever that looks like for you. You get up at 5 a.m. and you're going to work. Try to not have that coffee until maybe you're done getting dressed, or you're about out the door, or wait until you get to work. If you're petering around the house, try to have some water. Try to do a few morning tasks or things that you need to do. But ideally, we want to wait at least an hour before we have that coffee on an empty stomach, or have it with your first meal. So cortisol, too much cortisol, will definitely influence food cravings. And that's usually also by way of our blood sugar dropping, and then higher insulin levels, which are made worse by inflammation, will all contribute to food cravings. So we've covered quite a bit. And what I want to talk even more is when we talk about inflammation, there are some people who have, in my world and in the DNA world, at the cellular level, there are ways to find out where your inflammation is coming from. And if you're generally prone to inflammation, I'm gonna clear a little myth up here, which is, should I watch gluten, dairy, and alcohol, and corn and soy? Sort of. It's not a placating answer. It's that if your body is prone to inflammation, soy, corn, dairy, and gluten can be inflammatory for some. It's not a blanket statement. You can try it and see if it makes you feel better. But at the end of the day, you have to understand where your inflammation is coming from, which is driving your food cravings. So food cravings come in a lot of different ways and shapes and forms. But a lot of times what's driving all of this, the lack of sleep, the high cortisol, the gut dysbiosis, or that microbiome disruption, the ultra processed foods, they're all increasing inflammation. And that inflammation is what is driving those food cravings. There's a story that when I traveled abroad, I have British ancestry, so we travel abroad, and all of a sudden, no one's hungry, and they're going to the bathroom a lot, urinating, by the way, because when you hold inflammation, you're holding a lot of water. So invariably, those of us who went over were like, what is happening? And nobody's hungry. When I say nobody's hungry, it doesn't mean you're not getting hungry anymore. It means the cravings are gone. All of a sudden, that mental energy, what you're hearing about these GLP-1 medications, that mental energy of when's my next meal, when's my next snack, it's gone. That food noise, you've heard about that. It's because the inflammation was down. So how do we translate that over here? It's not about organic foods, things like that. Those can be, of course, included as part of a healthy diet, but it's the processed type foods. So I'm not saying unseasoned foods. Season your food, make it flavorful, whether it's dried herbs or fresh herbs, things like that. But try some groats or things or breads that are minimal, maybe a sourdough bread, or different types of whole grain rice or millet groats, different types of grains that are really more in their original form, and other types of foods that you can still have animal protein, vegetarian protein, whatever your choice is. It's looking at a label and trying to not have them that are a paragraph long. And also, of course, consider your sleep and your stress level. So what do you want to do? Meaning, what can you do? What is anyone willing to do? There's a couple of things that you can try. First thing is, your next meal that you choose, make it unprocessed. Try to have something, one meal a day, that isn't processed. That would be one of the first things that you could try to do. Another thing that you can do is go look in your pantry, go look in your refrigerator. If you see something that has modified something starch in it, go find a replacement for that type of sauce or type of seasoning or type of cracker. Find something that is not processed. It's unprocessed counterpart, if you will. And that's a way to decrease inflammation too, and help with the gut microbiome. As far as hydration goes a long way. It's a simple thing, sort of. I was with someone who had a water reminder on her phone. That was interesting. You could hear the water drop. But how do we gauge how much water? Just take your weight, divide it by 2. And there's a minimum, that's a minimum amount of ounces of water per day. So I hope that I have introduced you to the concept of how inflammation can definitely drive food cravings. It's not in your head, but there are lots of things that you can do to not only decrease your body's inflammation, but also activate your own body's natural ways to decrease your appetite and encourage your satiety. And that all comes at the root of decreasing inflammation.
Wow.
I don't know if there are any questions. I just want
Are there any questions?
I want to say that this is no time for that. We're about to get into. Anyone can head over to my website, which is liveyourbest365.com, and there's a place to chat with Alisa, and it's a complimentary 30-minute call. So if anything's not answered, head over there. I'm happy to talk.
Wow.
That was a lot.
I just want to say for myself, Alisa, that I am on this journey you've been talking about, and I'm doing all these things that you've been talking about. Yay.
Fascinating.
Thank you.
You're on the right track.
I am. And guess what? I gave up my coffee in the morning.
Oh, sin.
Nope, I'm drinking
I don't want to hang out with you anymore.
There is another side, trust me.
Yeah.
So let me ask you about the coffee thing. So you hear about the juice, like you said, water in the morning when you first get up. What's it like to drink a juice, like an fresh squeezed orange juice or something before your coffee?
Well, okay, so we still have the cortisol effect going on because that's higher in the morning. Mm-hmm. And what the problem with juice, it's nutritious. It's got vitamin C. It's got all these things in it. But you're better off with the fruit because it has the fiber that helps. It helps blunt that sugar spike. When you have that sugar spike, you can bet there's a downfall coming. So if you have in the morning, if you just have plain orange juice, you're getting on with your day, you still have the high cortisol that you're going to have the plummet. You still have the cortisol and your blood sugar is going to go lower, and then you're going to be over hungry. We don't want to be over hungry because,
And another thing we hear a lot about is this intermittent fasting.
Okay, I got something to say about that. All right.
That's too much work.
It's not so bad. So to help decrease inflammation, we want to make sure our detox pathways work. The body has to detox things, get rid of things to decrease inflammation. One of the ways that you can help yourself detox is to fast, which kind of means don't have dessert too late. Anywhere between 12 and 14 hours is really the sweet spot. More on the 12, 13 for women and more on the 13, 14 for men. By the time you get into a common pattern is 16-8, right? 16 hours of fasting and 8-hour eating window. The only thing that you need to consider is that when you intermittent fast for those types of durations, you're calling on your body's fat stores to be used as fuel. Sounds great. That's why everyone's doing it. I'll just use up my own fat stores. But if you have, and there are genes, fancy that will show you if you have this propensity, that there are genes that will tell you you don't handle blood fats very well. So in these people, what are they doing? You're dumping your own blood fats into your system. You'll hear it with, that didn't work for me. I didn't feel well. My labs went awful. These are all possible symptoms of people who can't handle their own blood fats very well in terms of them dumping it into their system. Not for everyone. It's not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
I love how you present it. You really allow, you encourage people to wake up to what their body needs. There's no set rules.
Right.
It's simple process to do. I love it. I love your presentation.
Great presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we encourage everyone to contact Alisa at her website. Again, it's liveyourbest365.com. Or if you can't remember that, send us an email at office@justtouch.com and we'll send it to you. We'll send this out to everybody with, I guess you have some PDF to go along with it to help people?
Yes, if anyone's interesting.
Yeah, we'll send that along because that was so much information. I ran out of space to take notes.
I know, me too. Yeah, worth listening to again, for sure.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you much. And we're going to take a moment now to teach some BioTouch points. Thanks, Alisa.
Thank you.
Lisa.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
Wow, she's awesome.
Great presentation. I mean,
Oh my gosh.
concise but loaded
I
with
know,
information.
man. She's just, wow. She's done this before.
Yeah. Yeah, you can tell. And just, it's great, and so we're going to share with you, we'll talk a little more about this maybe on Monday, but share with you some basic sets of points to work with, specifically what she was talking about.
Right.
If you don't have the workbook yet, you can download it for free right now at justtouch.com/workbook. And we use 3 of the sets out of our whole workbook, which has 14 sets. And we'll just jump right into that. And Bev will teach us the few sets of points to work with food cravings that happen from inflammation.
Wow. Crazy good. Okay, so if you have the workbook or you're going to download it, just to go over it a little bit, how we set this up. On the front cover, we always have the condition that we are presenting. In this case, it's food cravings, and there's a little synopsis of some information, pertinent information about that condition, and then some information about IFBM, International Foundation of Biomagnetics, and some of our mission, our vision statement. So that's on the first page. So you can look that over, get some information about us. So let's go to that first page. It will be actually page 6, but it's going to be the second page after that. And it's titled, What is BioTouch? And so for those of you who are new with us tonight, we always kind of like to go over these 4 major bullets just to introduce to you a little bit about BioTouch. If you've been with us before, it doesn't hurt to just kind of like remind ourselves how amazing this technique is. So just to start out, BioTouch, it is a simple hands-on healing technique that literally can address any condition the body can manifest. It's just amazing. And the key to it is that you're using the first 2 fingers of both hands, and you're going to be touching lightly on the skin. So the definition of BioTouch is one person touching another person lightly on the skin, like a butterfly, we say. So the lighter you go on the skin, it seems that the body responds to that light, loving touch. So let's begin. Let's go to the first bullet. BioTouch is easy to learn. And yes, children have taken our classes. A few of them have actually been certified. We worked with one young lady. It was amazing. She got it. Children just get it. And so I've often thought when you practice BioTouch, it's such a non-invasive, safe place. you can be as children in that practice together. Easy to learn. We have 17 sets of points. The integrity of that teaching is still going on like it was in the very first class 30 years ago. We haven't changed anything. Second bullet, BioTouch is a complement to any healthcare program, and it is. Whatever you're doing, if you're under a doctor's care, if you're on a specific diet, if you are doing other modalities, whatever it is, BioTouch is only going to enhance that healing journey for you. So we like to say that it is not just complementary, it is integrative and holistic, because the more that you practice BioTouch, you will see that it addresses all of the parts of ourselves, and it begins with the body, but it unfolds certain things within us. BioTouch has no levels of ability, and it is true. every one of us is effective the very first time. That you can't say that about too many healing techniques out there. You don't have to have any specific talent or knowledge. You don't have to know anatomy. So this is something that's innate in all of us, to care about other people, to want to help them in their pain and their stress. BioTouch requires no special preparation, no belief or state of mind to be effective. We've said many times, BioTouch is, you can practice it anytime, anywhere, with anyone. There's no special thing you have to set up for yourself, no cleansing an area or preparing an area. You don't have to have a belief system. You don't have to be in a perfect state of mind. You could be upset and still be very effective with people. So there's none of that happening. Those are the 4 basic tenets that we like to share about BioTouch. There's many more, but that's the 4 to begin with tonight. So let's just go over the process. When you begin to practice BioTouch, we always want to wash our hands before every session. Again, it is using the first 2 fingers of your hands, touching one person, touching another, very lightly on the skin. We're going to begin every session with the first set we're going to teach tonight. It's called the greeting. And every point, so within each of those sets, we have sets of points that you will be touching for each set, and you will hold those for 6 to 8 seconds. Again, it can be practiced anywhere, anytime, with anyone. So that's the basics of this wonderful technique that we're going to share with you tonight. And let us go to this next page, the terms. We're not going to go over all of them except the first 2, and we like to do that because BioTouch is a healing relationship between 2 people. And so we want to introduce to you what we call the 2 people involved. The first one is the associate. This is the person that is going to be giving and practicing the points. And we use this term really because it's a matter of convenience for us. But let's look at what the dictionary describes as an associate. 1, often in the company with another, implying an intimacy or equality. And 2, one having an interest in common with another. So I will just say BioTouch is a technique that literally brings 2 people into a state of equality. The associate that's giving, and then the second person in that relationship, the recipient, who is the beneficiary of those points on their body. That is the relationship between the 2. And the equality is both are receiving and giving, actually. So this is a really important part about BioTouch. It's very unique in that it is bringing 2 people together and witnessing together and honoring without any of those things that I was talking about earlier. No intention, no results guaranteed, just being present with another human being. So we're going to begin, but before we do, we like Paul to always let us look at how our manual is set up. So take it
Yeah,
away,
so
Paul.
if we notice, each set has 2 pages, okay? One page has this little drawing with numbers on it, and the second page has pictures and then has words about where those points are located. But if you'll notice on each of those pages, there is a little purple link that says click here to watch the video. When you click on that, it will take you to the video of which we're going to watch that this evening. So you have both pictures, you have drawings, you have words, and you have a video of somebody doing the points, and the words in the video are the same as the manual. So it's very easy, even after this evening, for you to continue learning on your own.
Yep, you are right. Thank you, Paul. So we're going to begin by introducing to you the greeting, which I mentioned earlier. You want to do the greeting after you wash your hands. You want to always do the greeting, even if you do like we're going to do tonight, 1 or 2 sets. You always want to begin, because this is what really establishes the harmony or the relationship between the associate and the recipient that we were just going over. So the only thing about the greeting that's different from everything else is you're going to be using only one hand, your dominant hand, and that will be clarified in the video we're going to watch. So let's go ahead and see 2 people practicing BioTouch, the greeting.
The greeting is always performed at the beginning of each session. It's the only set that uses one hand and the only set that indicates which hand to use. The greeting is performed with the dominant hand. If you are right-handed, use your right hand. If you are left-handed, use your left hand. The greeting is made by touching at point 1, which is in the fleshy area just below the bottom of the breastbone or sternum. Hold this point for 6 to 8 seconds. Then, with the same 2 fingers, touch point 2 on the back. To find point 2, look for the big bone at the base of the neck. From here, move 1 to 1.5 inches to the left. This is point 2. Hold this point for 6 to 8 seconds. More than one associate may work with a recipient provided that all of the associates perform the greeting. If the associate or the recipient leaves the session, or if someone who hasn't done the greeting touches either the recipient or the associate, the greeting must be reestablished. Then the session may proceed from where it was interrupted.
Okay. The next set we're going to present tonight is called the stress set. And Alisa was talking about those 3 questions we want to ask ourselves. One of them was, how stressed out am I? So this is really a great set to use. It's very easy, 2 points in it, as you can see in the diagram, and very effective, actually. So let's go ahead and watch the video.
The stress set may be used to address any manifestation of physical, emotional, or mental stress, as well as anxiety and shingles. Hold at X, which is in the fleshy area just below the bottom of the breastbone. It is the same as greeting point 1. Then with the other hand touch points 1 and 2, which are the same points as in the heart set. These points are found by imagining a line running from the notch at the top of the breastbone to a place on the left breast where the nipple would be on a youth. Divide this imaginary line into thirds. Point 1 is at the top of the first third. Point 2 is at the top of the second third. These points may be touched repeatedly, and remember to touch each point for at least 6 to 8 seconds.
Okay, and the third set we're going to talk about tonight is called our headset. And again, Lisa was talking about those hormones, serotonin, dopamine. This is, if you do the headset, you're going to be addressing all of those types of things, not to mention your sleep issues. So this is a great set to do. It just addresses so many things, chemical imbalances, all those types of things. So let's go ahead and watch the video for the headset. I guess it's not going to be the last one, is it?
The headset can be used to address conditions related to the brain. There are 4 steps in this set. In step 1, use through fire to touch points A and A. Point A on the back of the head is in the center of the neck at the base of the skull. Point A on the front of the head is at the center of the forehead, where the forehead begins to curve to the crown. Step 2 is performed in crossfire with the fingers of each hand touching on opposite sides of the head. Hold at X, which is in the indentation beside the neck muscle at the base of the skull. It is the same as point 1 of the back set. On the opposite side of the head, touch points 1 through 5. Points 1, 2, and 3 are on the ridge line formed where the skull curves up toward the crown. Point 1 is above the outside corner of the eye on the ridge. Point 2 is above the front of the ear on the ridge. Point 3 is above the back of the ear on the ridge. To locate point 4, move down the head toward the base of the skull to a horizontal indentation approximately 1/3 of the way down from the top of the ear and 1 to 1.5 inches behind the back edge of the ear. Point 5 is opposite hold point X at the base of the skull. Point 5 now becomes the new hold point as points 1 through 5 are touched on the opposite side of the head. In crossfire, touch point 1 above the outside corner of the eye on the ridge. Point 2 above the front of the ear on the ridge. Point 3 is above the back of the ear on the ridge. Point 4 is a horizontal indentation approximately 1/3 of the way down from the top of the ear and 1 to 1.5 inches behind the back edge of the ear. And point 5 is opposite hold point X at the base of the skull. Step 3 is performed in matching fire, touching points 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3, 4 and 4, 5 and 5. Finally, in step 4, place the open palms of both hands on the head covering points 1 through 3. Be careful, don't let your hands touch each other.
Okay, well, we do have one other set, the metabolism set. This is, gosh, can't say enough about this set. This really helps the whole body to assimilate, bring in what it needs and to need. Also, this set, Alisa was talking about insulin issues that arise with the cortisol, the inflammation, and this set will help address anything that comes up along those lines. So, this is, again, a wonderful set to use. Let's go ahead and watch the video.
The metabolism set can be used to help the body assimilate what it needs and eliminate what it doesn't need. The metabolism set has 2 steps. Step 1 involves touching points in matching fire along the large muscles on the front of the neck. Points 1 and 1 are located above the collarbone in the soft indentations on both sides of the notch at the top of the breastbone. Points 2 and 2 are halfway up the neck on the front of the large muscles. Points 3 and 3 are at the top of the neck on the front of the large muscles. The second step involves holding a point on the front of the body and touching points next to the spine on the back. Hold point X on the front of the body is on a line directly between where the nipples would be on a youth and is 1 to 2 inches to the left of the breastbone. Another way to find X is 1/3 of the way up the breastbone from greeting point 1 and 1 to 2 inches to the left of the breastbone. The points on the back are located next to the spine, forming a rectangle around the breakover point. The breakover point is where the bottom of the rib cage joins the spine and can be found by imagining a line directly through the body from greeting point 1. To perform step 2, find hold point X on the front of the body and touch points 1 through 4 on the back. Point 1 is approximately 1 to 2 inches up from the breakover point on the left spine muscle. Point 2 is directly across from point 1 on the right spine muscle. Point 3 is 2 to 3 inches below the breakover point on the right spine muscle. Point 4 is used to address blood sugar problems and is added to the other metabolism points when needed. It is located across from point 3 on the left spine muscle.
Oops, there we are. Whew,
There we are.
simple. Just as simple as Alisa's presentation.
Yeah, right. Well, really, you do just those 4 sets that we introduced
Yeah.
this evening, and I'm telling you, you are on your way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I've worked with a lot of people with BioTouch. I remember this one fellow, his wife was like, I can't keep bananas in the house anymore. And her husband used to hate bananas, and all of a sudden she realized he was eating bananas like crazy,
Wow.
after he'd been getting BioTouch. And
Yeah.
another guy who was started to like broccoli. He'd hated
Never
most vegetables. He was a meat eater completely. So
Wow.
tune in with us on Monday. We'll talk more about it. But BioTouch can help you come to an awareness of what your body's needs.
Yeah.
And how to, lessen the inflammation so that the cravings don't take over you. You control the cravings.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, thank you all for joining us. This is available for you anywhere you want it. Share it with friends and families. I noticed Rachel Funk was with us on Instagram. Just wanted to let you know she created those videos.
Oh, yes, she does.
And we're still using them, and as far as we're concerned, they're vintage now. So we don't need to get new ones.
We're vintage, so
We're
that's
vintage.
good.
Again, get hold of us, justtouch.com, or send us an email, office@justtouch.com, or get hold of Alisa at liveyourbest365.com, and take control of your health and well-being.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you all. Thanks, Bev.
Thanks, Paul.